Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Once again, it's nice to know that everybody's out there celebrating Shabbat with us. It does make us feel less lonely, and we're so glad that you could join us tonight. We're going to hear from Deb Drennan, the Executive Director of Freedom House Detroit. I'll talk a little bit more about what that is in just a few moments. But let's begin our Shabbat celebration with Ma Tovu, How Goodly Are Your Tents, O Jacob.
Yaakov, Mishkenotecha Yisrael, Ma tolu ohalecha Yaakov, ohalecha Yaakov, Mishkenotecha Yisrael. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha, lechu v'nelcha. Mekor habracha, ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov, ohalecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Yisrael, ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov, ohalecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha
A reading that is based upon the song that we just sang, which comes from the Torah, at least the first part. How beautiful are our tents when we stand together in unity and love, in the name of hope and harmony. How fragile are our tents when our fears divide us, when we allow outside winds to blow within. Who but we ourselves can define who we are, what keeps us strong, what keeps us whole? Who but we ourselves can shield us, carrying one another as one against the storm? How fair are our tents when we stand together in the name of unity, in compassion, in strength, for our children, for our children's children. Ken Yehi, may we be so. I'll ask Arthur to please light our candles, and we'll sing the blessing. Baruch haor ba'olam, Baruch haor ba'adam, Baruch haor b'shalom, b'shalom, Baruch haor, Baruch haor, b'shabbat. Join me if you have some glass of cheer as we say l'chaim, to life. Continue with this inspiring passage from Eleanor Roosevelt. The encouraging thing is that every time you meet a situation, though you may think at the time it is an impossibility, and you go through the tortures of the damned, once you have met it and lived through it, you find that forever after, you are freer than you ever were before. If you can live through that, you can live through anything. You gain strength, courage, and confidence by every experience in which you stop to look fear in the face. You are able to say to yourself, I lived through this horror. I can take the next thing that comes along. The danger lies in refusing to face the fear, in not daring to come to grips with it. If you fail anywhere along the line, it will take away your confidence. You must make yourself succeed every time. You must do the thing you think you cannot do. Continue with Efo Ori. A reading by A.C. Grayling, philosopher and humanist. There is a kind of courage required for the task of being human, the courage to meet the new and to accept the different in the chances of experience. Rilke gave luminous expression to this idea by saying that we need courage for the most strange, the most singular, and the most inexplicable that we may encounter. He meant the courage to accept love when it offers, to face death when it comes, to bear the burdens that life imposes in return for its gifts, and above all, the courage to create something to mark our own individual responses to the world, however modest. For even when the courage to do this is unostentatious and private, it can make a crucial difference to the content of the quality of our lives. We continue with Yesh Makom, There's a Place.
There's a place with answers we are seeking. There's a place to find our light of hope. Where's the strength to realize our vision? Yesh makom betocheinu, yesh makom betocheinu. Look within yourself, you'll find it there. There's a place with wisdom that can guide us. There's a place where we know what's right or wrong. Where's the path to peace that we all long for? Yesh makom betocheinu, yesh makom betocheinu. Look within yourself, you'll find it there.
Tonight, our guest is Deb Drennan, the Executive Director of Freedom House of Detroit. For those of you who are not from our area, Freedom House of Detroit is one of our most important local charities. It is an organization unlike almost any other in the country that provides a home for survivors of persecution from around the world who are seeking asylum both in the United States and in Canada. It has a mission guided by values that align with ours, a belief that all persons deserve to live free from oppression, to be treated with justice and compassion and dignity, and they do not just talk the talk, they walk the walk every single day. Freedom House is unique in that they offer a continuum of care and services to residents and to other refugees in need, advocating for systemic change that more fully recognizes the right of asylum seekers. So please listen in now to the conversation that I had earlier this week with Deb Drennan. Deborah Drennan, Executive Director of Freedom House Detroit, thank you so much for joining us on this Shabbat. This, of course, is a cause that is near and dear to our congregational hearts. I think that our congregants and others who are watching would be interested in knowing how you guys have been navigating this entire pandemic.
It's been a challenge. So right now we are fine. We had it early on, a little over 75% of our house did test positive, which meant that those that were who tested positive went off site into a quarantine location that the city health department had designated for homeless individuals. And then those who were roommates of those who went off site were also quarantined in the house, in their rooms. That left about 4 or 5 people who were the cooks and the cleaners and the ones that were helping prepare meals and keep the house sanitary and sanitized while the others were away. So it was rough. The ones that went off site actually, it was traumatic in a sense that it reminded them and gave them some flashbacks of congregate prisons or settings where they had been forced to go, cots laid out in a row with Red Cross blankets. And so that's a typical scenario for many that are mass graves or prisons. And so it was rough for many of them. After 12, 14 days, they came back to the house, and then we had to navigate those that were positive away from those that weren't on their behalf. And so when that happened, there was just a lot of stress and anger. They felt they had been thrown to the strangers of. They also exhibited PTSD, so there was a lot of work. We have excellent staff, wonderful counselors, and so working with them and trying to make sure that they're able to articulate, yet come back to the present and let them, work with them to realize that in their minds they may have gone back there, but physically, where are you? And so again, with great staff, everybody is back, and we're once again working together to make sure that this virus doesn't come back. And thanks to many people who donated, we now have the PPE, the equipment, wipes and things like that we need to keep the house clean. And I think you all remember when the virus was early on, tried to find paper towels or toilet tissue was nearly impossible for anyone, much less try to get for a house of 56 people. So we really depended on the generosity of the community to help us keep stock of those items, and still do. They're still hard to find. And certainly the expectation of this virus and the cost would have never come into play. So we certainly had a lot of support to keep us moving and to keep the organization operating and doing well.
Well, as long as you're bringing it up, and well, maybe before I ask this, how is the staff doing? Let me ask that first.
We're also better. Early on, there's this sense of, we're all worried about our own families, our children. Some live with parents. Are they going to be okay? Many caregivers have people living with them or who they live with who are also caregivers. So people are going out and taking care of others. And so there was this concern that I'm going to get it, or I'm going to spread it, or I'm going to bring it here. And then there was just the sense of there's nothing I can do. We're the fixers. They come in, we prepare their legal case, we provide the counseling, we feed, we clothe, we provide socialization. And in this case, there was just nothing we could do except listen and sit tight. And also for many of them, a pandemic and the way that it happens, or the way they were moved off site is much like a form of persecution. And so, bringing them again, back to, no, this is where you're at. You're in Detroit. You're living at Freedom House. You were off site for a while. Bringing them back to the moment was a bit of a challenge. And so staff felt helpless, right? And fearful ourselves. And the fatigue of seeing the news all the time. And our residents are brilliant, and they had the news on all the time. We actually had to tell them. Because that ticker of who's dying, how many dying, how many dying, how many dying. And so we finally had to say, let's turn that off, and let's look at some other things, and designate news time, not 24/7. So for people that's their life, right? What's going on back home, that was a bit of a challenge too. So staff really struggled also, but now we're all back, and a great team to work with, a great team providing services. So we were able to go to one another, express our anxiety, go into a closed office, and feel comfortable expressing our concerns with one another, and not feeling like, oh, she can't handle her job, or it's a great team. And to go through a pandemic like this, I couldn't think of a better group to work with.
Well, and the tribute to that is that you've kept everybody safe. The initial outbreak that you talked about was right at the very beginning, before anybody even realized what was happening.
Yeah.
Kept everybody safe. In terms of keeping people safe, it is my understanding that the immigration system has not completely shut down. How are the folks doing in terms of their claims, and are they having timely hearings and other kinds of concerns like that?
Well, that's the other piece. So residents who were 2 days away from their asylum interview were right before they closed the government down. So that's been another piece, because remember, if you're not getting your status, if you're not getting your asylum, if you're not in court, then the proceedings going forward, your family continues back home in harm's way. And the virus is there too. So there's all of these worries, and what money, and how can I provide? People are getting sick. So that anxiety is, astronomical. They're the bravest people I know. So we still have not had any interviews scheduled for Chicago, where our asylum region is. So we haven't had any interviews scheduled yet. We're still waiting. We also have had some master calendar hearings where the defensive cases, people who come in through Mexico or the southern border, they go right to court. And so we've gone to court only to find out that those appointments were rescheduled. No notice, you just get there and find out, you got to turn around, go back. And just imagine our own life, right? So you want to pay a traffic ticket, you want to get it off, or your mind, and off, whatever it is, other legal issues, and you keep going back, and they just keep postponing or rescheduling without the courtesy of letting you know. And that's disrespectful, but it's also time and the energy that plays into. So we're really at a standstill. Early on, the borders closed to certain populations, and now the borders are closed, but also you can't go anywhere. So Canada, we've been helping people get to Canada, and the border has been closed. And I believe that it opened, and for significant essential service only. And if you're following, Canada is seeing that asylum seekers needing to flee, that is an essential service, because they're a little dismayed at how the United States process is going. So we are able to still help people get to Canada, but there's something called a Safe Third Country Agreement, and the shift in all the rules around that continue to change. So right now, the only people eligible to seek protection through our organization would be people who have family members in Canada, and they have to be biological, and they have to be immediate. So a parent, a sibling, son or daughter. So
Not a
that's
spouse.
it.
Not a spouse does not qualify?
Yes, I'm sorry. Yeah, spouse does. But a legal, no. They used to allow common law, and they may still, but that's not our experience lately, because we haven't had any common law relationships in the house yet. So,
speaking of resources, what kind of resources could you all use right now as we're
I mean, Lysol wipes, if anybody finds those, they need to put them in a locked bag and don't let anybody know you have them. Same thing with paper towels, you know. So all of the things that everybody else needs to sanitize the house. So, and then of being a shelter with 56 people, you know, 6 bathrooms, so toilet tissue, paper towels, we have looked at you know, an economical way of providing these services. So our website kind of defines which of these products we prefer, because using rolls of paper towel, you know, like Bounty or, you know, or whatever brand people get, is very expensive. But we went to an industrial type, so it minimizes how much you use, it controls the amount, and you know, children can't sit there and you know, drag it down the hallways. So like every other family, you know, we have kids in the house that get into that stuff. So paper products, sanitation, you know, bleach, things like that. And then, you know, keeping dishes, we need dishwasher soap, hand wash dishes. We do have a dishwasher, but that is not as difficult to obtain as, you know, washing dishes. So we need dish soap and detergent, you know, having to wash clothes. Again, we have a system where every day there's different rooms that are assigned. And if you have a family of 5, that's a lot of laundry. So especially when little ones are involved. So diapers, we children come and go in our house. And right now we have a couple. I mean, they're all adorable. It's amazing. And you feel so good that you're able to rescue them and get them away from all the evil and the wars, and it takes them a while. You know, I call them suction cup babies because they just cling to their parents. And then little by little, they'll step out. And then when they're real confident is when they get into mischief, right? You see them with a crayon writing on the wall, all those kinds of things. But they need diapers and they need wipes. And periodically, someone will come pregnant. And we don't have storage space to do like a big clothing drive. That's impossible for us. But as a new family comes, we like to be able to have folks where we can contact and say, hey, a family came and these are their sizes, shoes, you know, whatever, tops, pants, underclothing, so that maybe the community can help provide for that family, as opposed to getting things that we can't use, sizes we didn't need, and then we're really giving them to someone else. So
where can folks go to find a comprehensive list? Do you have that on your website?
On our website, that's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I assume money is also something
always got to keep the lights on and the internet running. We're in an internet desert, and so you know, it's a real challenge for us. But yeah, I think always operation costs, expenses are high, just like everybody at home. Your water bill is higher, your electric bill is higher. You know, being home means using more at home and not the business that you work with every day. So you know, noticing that our expenses are increasing simply because everybody's home. So we have something called Freedom Works, and it's a pretty great program where the Community Foundation of Southeast Michigan helps fund with, and it's a pre-employment readiness. So our asylum seekers come to us and they are professionals. They have backgrounds and work, but they need some help with getting into the U.S. workforce, and also some training around things that we don't think about. So if you come from war and or you've been in prison, there's you know, alarms and whistles in industries, factories, things like that, that could really traumatize somebody if they didn't expect it. Fire alarms, safety, shouting from one department to another. And then authority, right? So the authority figures that are in their lives, they're still authority, and they're not the ones persecuting or torturing them. So we do a lot in our pre-employment to help them see the difference, you know, taking them into a place and say, this is a security guard. He's not to harm you, he's to protect you. Here's, you know, she is to be a support, and it doesn't mean that you need to be afraid. It means she's going to be a part of your safety plan when you go to work. So we really have a lot to help with that, and that program does that. And then there are some great businesses that have helped us place volunteers so that they get work history in the United States, right? So They can go out and then also in a comfortable place, if they don't understand something, they have someone they can talk to so that they wouldn't get fired or they don't have to go to the HR department and disclose their own vulnerability. And that has been really, really helpful. And so working with those volunteer programs or businesses, then the next step would be when they are legally authorized to work, they can now have someplace in the United States that they have a work reference, they have a personal reference, so that builds their resume and they're more apt to get employment that can sustain them while they're here and help them save money for their families back home.
And so our folks can help to fund some of these programs.
Absolutely, absolutely. Run a business, or right now because of COVID, the health department, we don't have people in the house. We're not able yet to have visitors, but we have opened up. Some are working and some are returning to volunteer. So, but transportation is hard, especially where you are. We're in Southwest Detroit. Just Fort Street, and on the neck to neck with Dearborn, as they say, and getting up to places in Birmingham or Southfield or Farmington, Livonia is there are no buses. So that's another aspect of consideration, is how do they get there? And people are, in a world where all you read is all these things that are going wrong, the people are genuinely kind in your community. I'm telling you, wonderful Birmingham Temple, wonderful people who stay in touch and send checks on a regular basis, monthly, and that that helps. We know it's coming, so that's one aspect. But there's a new ruling in this August that requires asylum seekers to wait 1 year after they apply for their asylum to obtain work authorization. Mm-hmm. So right now it's about 6 months. You apply and you have 3 months before you can apply, and then it takes about 3 months. So it's been about 6 months waiting. Now it's a year. So now we're going to have more people living with us for a longer length of time than before because they aren't eligible for income. So that means another aspect of our income needs to be shifted, right? So our expenses are going to change to more long-term need, food, clothing, those medical, all of the things that you and I use every day. As an asylum seeker who cannot earn an income, we provide those things. But also the emotional toll it's taking on people, just now knowing that they're not going to be able to work, is creating such a panic because, again, their families are in harm's way. People get sick. It's in some countries, you don't pay your rent, you're out. Maybe it's changing here too. But if you could be on life support in an emergency system, and if you can't pay for healthcare, they'll put you out. Kids who aren't in school, they are vulnerable to being picked up by militants or else, human trafficking. So all of these worries that these people have and can't earn an income. And that's a disadvantage to the United States, I think, in addition to the people that come here, because again, skills and talent, a brilliance that, working with people who, as an asylum seeker, their integrity, their honorability, their respect, to be persecuted and tortured and continue to stand for what you believe in, I like those people as my coworkers, and as a fact, we hire former residents at the house. And so former residents, alum, if you would, are my colleagues. And so it's a world of difference. And, in a state, especially, we're aging out, our economy is shifting. And to me, it would make sense to allow people to come in and help not only in industries that we're weak in, but help continue to build in industries that we're starting to falter in.
I want to wish you continued success with all of the limitations and everything. And I want to urge those who are watching, whether you live in Michigan or in far-flung places from here, please check out the links underneath this video. We will post those, and you can give generously to Freedom House. Thank you so much for joining us, and hope to see you in person very soon.
Thank you.
A couple of notes on Freedom House, and thank you again to Deb for joining us. Freedom House throughout August will be participating in the Rock Family of Charities Community Charity Challenge. and will be sponsoring in the fall their Voices of Freedom campaign. We have provided a link to their website. You can also find them on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and any place else that you do social media. So thank you once again to Deb for all that she does and all that her incredible staff does. And full disclosure, I do sit on the board of Freedom House Detroit because I'm so proud of the work that they do. We continue now with a reading, The Peace of Wild Things by Wendell Berry. When despair for the world grows in me, and I wake in the night at the least sound in fear of what my life and my children's lives may be, I go and lie down where the wood drake rests in his beauty on the water and the great heron feeds. I come into the peace of wild things who do not tax their lives with forethought of grief. I come into the presence of still water, and I feel above me the day-blind stars waiting with their light. For a time, I rest in the grace of the world and am free. We continue with Naaseh Shalom. In this community where we find strength and common purpose, we turn our minds and hearts toward all those who need our love and support, those who are ill, those who suffer pain of the body or spirit, those who are lonely. So many people are lonely right now, those who have been wronged. Tonight, we extend well wishes to these members of our community and to their loved ones, to Cece Stone, Joan Mann, Patty Becker, Julie Eliason, Titus Mendel, Karen Tremper Harris, Robert Liebhaber, Larry Fisher, Jennifer Breen, Anne-Marie Kersniak, Greg Lowenthal, and Myron Tink. May all who suffer know that they are not alone. May they be healed quickly. May they experience a complete recovery, refuah shlema, the renewal of their bodies and the renewal of their spirits. Makom HaKoach.
That dwells so deep within us
Our thoughts turn to those who are no longer with us, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and those of every people and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. We recall now our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us, those who died at this season in years past, and those whom we have taken into our hearts with our own. Tonight, our congregation continues to mourn the recent deaths of Arlene Goldberg, Yehi Zichar Livracha, may her memory be a blessing, and Harvey Frank, Yehi Zichar Livracha, may her memory be a blessing. As tonight we also observe the yahrzeits of Jack Evans, Helen Caro, Rena Mann, and Doralee Goldman. May these wonderful memories that we possess of each of these people provide us with a measure of comfort as we go through our lives in their absence. Well, that's our welcoming Shabbat for tonight. Thank you to all of you who watch every week, who post your comments and wish each other Shabbat Shalom. We'll conclude, as we did last week, with this special rendition of Hine Ma Tov. Shabbat Shalom, everyone.